Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is a privilege and an honor to have the distinguished, the unique, the always smiling, optimistic, truth to power writer, Carmela Monk Crawford. Carmela, welcome to the broadcast and thank you for helping us get this show on the road, even though you're playing a dual role as a guest and co-host. So happy to have you.
Oh, yeah. I didn't even know you were talking about me. Nice to see you, Edward Woody Woods. I'm glad to be here today. We got a lot to talk about.
We do have a lot to talk about. We're really excited about our upcoming campaign, Our Votes Matter, Our Votes Matter. And we want to kind of share that video with our audience so they can see what this is all about with regards to Our Votes Matter. Really excited about this opportunity to partner not just with Message Magazine, but Oakwood University through the Bradford Cleveland Brooks Leadership Center, run by Dr. Jesse Wilson, Breath of Life by Pastor W. Snell, and the Office of Regional Conference Ministries with Pastor Roger Bernard. So really excited about that, and we're going to go ahead and see if we can get this clip on the on the road with regards to this upcoming video. So really excited about showing that right now.
Tired of the myth and the rhetoric that our vote doesn't matter. But do you realize that since January of 2025, policies have been implemented that caused African American unemployment to double, and yet the myth continues.
That same myth is erroneously believed. Even with Medicaid funding is being cut and necessary financial aid to insurances are being rerouted to ICE agencies that operate without any oversight. Laws
I think we have some technical difficulties taking place at this time, so we'll have to go back and show it a little
Yeah.
bit later. But we have two special guests with us, and we're really excited to have both Dr. Jesse Wilson and Dr. Barbara Williams Skinner to talk about why our votes matter. And so at this time, we want to welcome to the stage Dr. Jesse Wilson is also the PELP director, the Pastoral Evangelism Leadership Council director as well. So he wears many hats, as well as a professor at Oakwood University. Dr. Barbara Williams Skinner is with Faith United to Save Democracy. She's with the Skinner Leadership Institute and the former executive director of the Congressional Black Caucus. So when you want someone with status and weight, everybody calls Auntie Dr. Barbara to the house. So very happy to have her as well. But let's talk about our votes matter and why they matter. And we'll pitch that to Dr. Jesse.
Yeah, I was excited when Woody, you called and pulled us together. Breath of Life, the Conscious Justice Council message was already in place, and the Office of Regional Conference Ministries. And I think what Roger, who's the director of the Office of Regional Conference Ministries, was getting at is that there's a whole lot at stake. I mean, you'd have to be deaf, dumb, and blind not to recognize how central the midterm elections are, but not just the midterm elections. We've got some local elections coming up next month, a runoff next month. But voting, I mean, we've got so much at stake: affordable housing, child care, Christian nationalism. You rattle the list off, and so this is not a time for us to sit it out, because voting is really the mechanism that allows normal people, regular people, to translate their passion into decisions and power. And there's been so much, it seems to me, to discourage our community from voting that we thought it would be good for us to marshal our collective resources and get everybody we can to the poll.
Right. What would our world
Absolutely.
be like had we had that vote for the last 150 years in place and secured, right? Dr. Barbara Williams Skinner, what would our world be like differently? even today.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, our vote matters because people matter. They matter to God. People are created in the image of God and they have the dignity. We have to uphold people's dignity and right to have their own conscience to select the leaders they want. That's what it means. It matters because when you have a scared grandmother who doesn't know whether her ID matters, or a young person who's voted for the first time and he doesn't know what questions to ask, or an immigrant family, if they don't know if they're going to be profiled, you know, the vote matter if people wouldn't be trying to stop it and steal it. So your votes matter. But I believe that Dr. Wilson just said it right. The votes matter because of Medicaid and prescription drugs, student loans, and the cost of childcare, housing costs, and energy prices. These are not as esoteric issues. These are like about your grocery bill, your doctor visit, your family budget. Can you put these pieces together? And not voting means you're voting against your own interests. That's what it means. It means you don't care who leads you.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Dr. William Skinner.
So we're coming to combine forces, and we always say that vote matters, and we try to get people to vote, and people try to sit out. And what about the young people? Does my vote really count? You know, things are already in place, so why even bother voting? They're going to do what they want to do anyway. What do you say to the millennial or to the Gen Z person that questions why does it make a difference?
It makes a difference because they wouldn't have student loans, where these votes were so narrow. Even during COVID, we wouldn't have gotten COVID care. We wouldn't have help for our Black colleges. Even jobs and justice is about the vote. So if you think about it, like most of those bills that are passed right now, the voting rights are under a severe attack. Right now, people are trying to keep your grandmother and your grandfather, who may be sick or in a nursing home, from mailing in their ballot. If you are a millennial and you are Gen Z, you're 140 million. There are only 60 million people who are baby boomers, who are you call elders, right? So if the young people don't vote, we don't have a future. Period.
Yeah. You know, from where I sit on this campus, this HBCU, I'm in the religion department, and we try to teach the young folk that citizenship demands responsibility, and particularly our religion and theology students. Jeremiah told us we're supposed to seek the peace of the city, and we need to do everything that we can to make things better, not just nationally, but locally. I think that things have definitely changed. When I grew up in Memphis, Tennessee, one of the things I was proudest of when I was a little boy was my NAACP card. And they told us from day one, this is your responsibility. But the context has changed up until now. And you ask, the young people around here have seen their Haitian brothers and sisters on campus fall prey to some of the foolishness that we see on the right wing. And so that brings it home immediately when you see your classmates who can't get back on campus, when you see their relatives who are afraid to go to the grocery store, when some of them, they're afraid to go out themselves in their local communities. And so some of the things that have happened recently have brought the necessity to vote right into their laps.
Exactly.
Yeah. Can I ask you a couple of questions? We got Dr. William Skinner and Dr. Wilson, if you want to jump in here as well. But first, for you, Dr. William Skinner, your organization prepares poll chaplains and peacekeepers.
Yes.
And I thought that was interesting. I've served as a election watcher and backdoor, helping people, but I have never seen a poll chaplain and a peacekeeper. How long have you been doing it, and why do you do that?
After George Floyd was killed, in 2020, we began thinking everybody's vote is at stake, not just the Black vote, which we traditionally focused on. So we started organizing Poll Chaplain in the 2022 election. This is our third election. We've organized about 1,000 across Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, North Carolina, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Texas, Virginia, and Wisconsin, all the battleground states. And why are we doing that? Because no one should be fearful of voting, but people are. There's so much fear in our nation now that some people will not even go at the thought of ICE at the polls. Mm-hmm. So we have ordained pastors as in their clergy collars, creating a calm, moral environment, a welcoming environment for people who are fearful, right? And lay leaders. You don't have to be an ordained leader. Student leaders. We have community leaders. We have labor leaders from the labor unions and others helping us at the polls. And what do? They de-escalate tensions. We have a 90-minute training. We have done two. We have two more, 28th of September and the 15th of October. What do you learn there? You learn how to de-escalate a conflict. We do role play scenarios. What if? We know that ICE is illegal. Federal law prohibits ICE from being at the poll, but this is a lawless time. Psalms 11 said, when law and orders have collapsed, what should the righteous do? It says the Lord is in his holy temple. So we have to go out there in the spirit of Christ and stand for those who are vulnerable, stand for those who are fearful and say, we are here. We send people out in buddy system. So you don't even have to go by yourself, right? And serve for 3 hours. It's just like someone said, well, what do we do? Well, if a guard at a jewelry store is there just in case somebody comes to rob it, we're there just in case bad things happen. In the last two elections, we've seen people intimidated. We've seen people profile. We've seen people with guns in Arizona and Ohio and Texas and other open carry states. But because we had pastors there and others in their clergy collar, people knew, okay, it's okay to be here. They have a right to have their guns, but we have a right to vote.
Let me ask you as well, both of you, talk to us a little bit, really briefly, about something that I saw also on your site regarding the spiritual mandate for voting. Dr. Wilson, you said this was something that was taught for you, and perhaps you're teaching your students as well. What is the spiritual backing for the whole push to vote?
Yeah, well, one of the things I just mentioned is that practically speaking, we believe and we kind of teach that citizenship demands responsibility. And since we are on a religious campus, we double down and tell them they have a responsibility, according to Jeremiah, to seek the peace of the city. And so I think what was exciting about this push in July and in August, we are in the education mode. We're talking about the Our Votes Matter drive. And then in September, I should say, actually July through September, then October and November, we'll be trying to mobilize as best we can. I'm really excited about the Poll Chaplain's possibility. I'm glad you all brought that up, because that seems to resonate immediately, especially in an area like ours with so many active and former pastors. But that's it. Yeah, Carmela, I think the principle of it is that we're here to be good and to do good.
Skinner, is there anything
you can't say it clearer than that? There are 2,000 verses of scriptures on God's concerns of the poor. He's not asking us, he's telling us the way you treat the poor is the way you treat God. And if the people whose votes are suppressed are not middle class, they're not in gated communities, they are poor, they are vulnerable, they're in housing projects. So it's our responsibility. This is not a request from God. It's not a suggestion. It's not an option to care for those who can't speak up.
Okay.
Proverbs 31 says, for those who can't speak for themselves. That's the mandate.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Let me ask you, I know that, there's so many things I'm going to ask, because I love the way you have these toolkits and what should I say? Not just language, but everything else to help people. Are you surprised about who is not registered? Our assumption for so long is that maybe the young people sit out. When I'm looking on your website and some other things, I'm seeing that the age group that has the highest rates of being unregistered is 35 to 44.
Absolutely.
Does that surprise anybody but me?
Yeah, surprised me.
It's not a surprise. You know, people are getting, we have not been spending a lot of time educating our people, giving them their history, letting them know how powerful we were, letting them know how we got here. So I think that doing the toolkit was just simply a way of saying, we've been here before. We know how to do this. Look, we had more people unregistered in Texas than the president won by in 2020. Okay. Okay. So, and in Michigan and in Pennsylvania, we can win the presidency, the governorship, the Senate, if we would just understand that God has empowered us as a people. We are not victims. We are victorious as a people.
Acted.
That's who we are.
Yeah, I think that the obvious attempts to keep us from the polls with information overload, misinformation, the gerrymandering, all are just flooded with with so much information and misinformation that it's in an attempt to just make people numb to the prospect of a possible change. Is proof positive that this is the best season for us to marshal our forces and get people to the polls.
What's your best strategy for pushing people to the polls that you can share with everybody tonight? What's your go-to that works?
Arrive with 5. Everybody has a 5, a friend, a neighbor, a coworker, a classmate, or family member who are not planning to vote, but they will go with a trusted person. Everybody, 5 people, you can just, in fact, in the audience right now, you should be listing your 5. What's your family member? Some of your family members, some of my family members, as active as I am, may not be voting. So it's my responsibility to deal with my family, deal with my neighbors, my classmates, the students that I know, the friends that I have. Take them to the polls.
Absolutely.
Everybody could have that assignment. That's how we do it. We have 90 million people who did not vote in 2024. 90 million. Okay. Those are alienated voters. Dr. Wilson talked about them. So we have got to help people to see the connection between their gas bill and their vote, their prescription drugs and their vote, their school loan and their vote. This is a family affair. This is a community affair. This is a church affair. This is our business because it's God's business.
Absolutely. Love it. Love it. It makes it doable. It makes it tangible. It makes it approachable. If you can focus on 5. You might not be able to focus on 5 million, but you can focus on 5.
Yeah, there's 5 people in my family, and I make sure we got our little printout of who's going to be on the ballot.
Exactly.
And the write-up on what their positions are and everything. We go as a unit. We go there, and I love it. And now is the time, and we're almost out of time with this segment, but now is the time to make sure that you're ready. Do not wait until it's too late to register, to find out that you've been purged. Do not wait until it's too late to find out that your ID is expired. Do not wait until it's too late to find out that your polling place has been moved or shut down. Get on it right now. Thank you all. Thank you.
Absolutely.
My pleasure.
Want to remind you that's dignity for every voter, democracy for all. And if you want to be a poll chaplain or a peacekeeper, visit www.turnoutsunday.com. I repeat, www.turnoutsunday.com. And we can join forces with Faith United to save democracy. And Dr. Barbara, I just want to thank you for being so open for partnerships. I mean, you have really covered the waterfront across this country, and it's open to everyone, not just the targeted
Absolutely.
states. So I just
Absolutely.
want to thank you for being the statesperson that you are. Retiree means nothing because you are still on the battlefield, and we are very fortunate that you are able to join us tonight. We appreciate
Yeah.
you joining the Conscience and Justice Council in Maryland
Thank you so much. God bless
as a
you.
keynote speaker and workshop presenter. So we just want to thank you and know that we have your back as we work together to save democracy in these great United States of America.
We need
And
your
before you leave,
support.
Dr.
We need your support, and thank you for that.
and Dr. Jesse Wilson, you know, what can I say? Ever since you were in the seminary, you are still true, true, true. Can't say that about all the seminarians, but we thank God for Dr. Jesse Wilson because he is still relevant, still funny, but always very candid and authentic. That is his superpower. And we appreciate him being with us again tonight. And we know you have other responsibilities, but once again, thank you. Our votes matter. Check out the toolkit. Go to cjcouncil.org. Click on Our Votes Matter. You can get the videos. You can get the how to work with vote411.org. We have a cheat sheet so you can register and verify people are able to vote. So please go to www.cjcouncil.org and you can get the voter toolkit, because we are collaborating with Dr. Barbara Williams Skinner to make sure that we can get poll chaplains and peacekeepers. It is not too late. Don't delay, but get involved in your community and make sure everybody knows our votes matter. Once again, thank you so much, Dr. Barbara Williams Skinner and Dr. Jesse Wilson Jr. Appreciate you and have a good day.
Yes, sir.
God
Thank
bless.
Mhm.
We are very fortunate, Carmela, to have a distinguished scholar. You know, so many times when you're Oakwood University president, you forget that you have an academician in the house, a gifted preacher, a gifted teacher, but a scholar, someone who loves research, someone who doesn't mind getting into the weeds, having been over to 60 countries to present, having an MBA, an MDiv, a DMin, and a PhD. I mean, we are very happy to talk about truth and lie with none other than the author of Truth and Lie. Dr. Leslie N. Pollard is in the house, and we are excited to have him here to share about his upcoming book coming out September 1st. And we got to cheat and read it, Carmela. We couldn't read it all, but we got to cheat and read it for ourselves. So without further ado, let's welcome Dr. Leslie Pollard.
Yes, welcome. Uh-oh.
Are you on mute, Dr. Pollard? We can't hear you. And we want to hear you.
Still not.
Let's check and make sure you have the right microphone source. Okay.
Oh, there we go. Try it again.
Okay. For the microphone, make sure you have the microphone that you're using on the headset. It might be a different microphone that's
Hold on just 1 second. And if not,
there
I'll
you
take
go.
it off.
Perfect.
Got it?
There you go.
Got it? Okay.
Got it.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Well, it's a
Well-
pleasure to be here with you. Thank you for the invitation. Thank you very much. I'm excited about this topic and all the discoveries that I found. So thank you.
Well, Dr. Pollard, why don't you go ahead and kick it off? You had a traumatic accident that kind of
Oh
spurred
my!
you
Wow!
to get this book written. And so,
Well, of course.
to read
Oh
it,
my
you're like,
goodness!
whoa.
Yeah, in 2025. So I had been doing the I'd run it. So I finished Oakwood June 30, 2025. I had set up an evangelistic meeting in Guam, right? So, but for about 4 years, 2 or 3 years before that, Carmela and Ed, I had been doing the research actually on the book. I had been actually thinking someone needs to address this in a scientific and systematic way. All of us have wonderful things and observations and insights, but to bring that all into one place and to try to get some perspective was what I was trying to do. But I just didn't have time. So on September 1st, coming up September 1st, 2025, I came back from Guam and I was driving down Snake Road. I wasn't feeling well, and they tell me that I blacked out and I hit an oak tree at 50 miles an hour. And some of you have seen the car, but it was in that 5 days in the hospital that I had a clarity that I didn't have in years. It was a clarity when you're lying in bed and you know that should have been, somebody should have been planning a funeral. And when the paramedic showed up, he said, we really didn't expect you to be alive, you know, from what was described. He said, we just didn't. We thought there's no way he's going to survive this. But with some soft tissue injuries, that's what I had, some soft tissue injuries, some jostling, you know, that's quite a bit of impact and that kind of thing. And it left me with a little bit of tinnitus, you know, in the ears where it's ringing a little bit. So now I say, Carmela, like when my wife says, you're not listening to me, I say, oh, I have a disability now. So you gotta have compassion, Ed, on people with disabilities. You gotta have a compassion. So anyway, it gave me an opportunity. It did. It gave me an opportunity though to really clarify it. So that accident, the Snake Road, as I say in the book, this is the road that almost stopped the book from happening. But September 1, 2025. And the release date was on purpose because I was saying to the devil, you missed your shot. You know, you had your shot, you missed it. So on the day that I was shot at, I'm shooting back September 1st. I picked September 1st on purpose for that reason.
Do you feel, maybe I feel a little sensitive asking, do you feel this is part of sort of a spiritual warfare kind of experience?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. No, please don't feel sensitive. No, absolutely. Absolutely. Everything we should do, whether you eat or drink or whatever you do, right? The seed or whatever part, whatever you do, you should do it to the glory of God. So absolutely. I mean, so I was given the apparatus to do the work too. See, that's the other side. So you have to say, within your stewardship, what are the gifts that God has given you to do the work that needs to be done? And I had a friend of mine say to me when I was a young preacher, and you know, I used to tease the young people like I say, y'all may not believe it, but once I was hot on the youth circuit. Once I was a hot youth preacher. I was at one point. Okay, but so I was in England preaching, and Carmela, a gentleman walked up to me and he said, do you write anything? I said, not really. I just spend my time preaching. He said, you speak like a writer. That's what he said. He said, you talk. He said, I can tell by the way you talk, the way you put sentences together. You talk like a writer. He said, now I'm going to say something to you and I hope you never forget it. And I haven't. In 45 years, I haven't forgot it. He said, if you want to inspire, preach. But if you want to influence, write.
Right.
That was Dr. Jeff Brown's dad who told me that. That was Dr. Jeff Brown's dad who told me that, who said that. And I remember that. He said, if you want to inspire, preach. He said, there's nothing wrong with that. Some people, that's what they do. He said, but if you want to influence, he said, you got to write, because the writing will go places your preaching never does. The writing will get to places that, Carmela, I'm sure your articles get to places that you never have been to. Right. So,
yeah, your mouth to God's ear. Well, this is what Dr. Pollard, this book, Truth and Lie, Finding the Naked Truth in a Dressed Age, said how the subtitle, How Prophetic Adventism Answers Christian Nationalism. And so you and I, I remember that you let me know
we were talking about this one day, remember?
Nationalism. And as you said, there are so many people who are discussing it from different angles and points of view. It seems to me from the subtitle that this, you are taking this from a prophetic standpoint. Am I right?
Oh, yes, absolutely. You're absolutely right. And the recognition that for all of the conversation, the one group of people who have addressed this beginning in the 1800s were Adventists. When the National Sunday Association and others, Adventists were on the march. So when you talk about a tradition of facing this, Adventists had a tremendous one of the things I document in the book, we talk about the 1888 General Conference, right? And that was the one where righteousness by faith, right? I don't want to get too much into the weeds, but the righteousness by faith message, Woody, was the center. Okay, so that ends on November 4th, 1888. December 13, 1888, that same A.T. Jones, who was standing for righteousness by faith, was testifying before the U.S. Senate. Not a month later. And why? Because you can't legislate righteousness either. So you can't earn it. That's Minneapolis. But in D.C., you can't legislate it either. And so I kind of tease those things out to say these things are not separated at all. They're not separated at all.
Well, your book has received critical acclaim as it relates to Christian nationalism. And we would be remiss if we didn't share someone who has given you a great review of your book. And so we want to go ahead and give him that opportunity. Couldn't let the cat out the bag, but we want to make sure that we got the good Reverend Dr. Rob Schenck.
Look at Rob.
And
you got me.
Rob, go ahead and share your thoughts.
You got me, boy. You got me.
And from whence you've come.
Well, and first, let me say what a pleasure it is to be in company with all of you, but particularly to be next to the eminent Leslie Pollard, whom I've come to know and admire in a very short span of time, and that's saying a lot about this man and his ministry, but also his manner. I can see he's not just a scholar, theologian, church leader, but Dr. Pollard, you are a quintessential shepherd of souls. You care for the person, and it comes out in everything you write, and the character of your ministry over so many decades.
Thank you.
So it's been a pleasure to read your work, and what a contribution this is. Now, I'm going to say right out of the gate here that I know of what you write because I experienced it. I was part of the movement that gave birth to this really monstrous form of anti-truth. Let me put it that way. This is a distortion of the gospel. And in your work, what I have found so unique about your work, and I must tell you, I've read many volumes on the subject of Christian nationalism, coming from various different perspectives. What makes your work so unique is that it is born out of your personal passion and out of a story. I'm sure you talked about that before I was able to join. But you also give pastoral tools here. Yours is not simply a polemical treatment in terms of a theological discourse, although there's plenty of theology there and good theology. It's not simply a biblical treatise, though there is plenty of Bible there and good Bible there. But it's also very tender and human, and it gives pastors who have a different approach to this crisis, this problem. You know, you can't always be a prophet in the pulpit, though the prophetic is very important in the pulpit. But you can't always be a prophet. Sometimes you must be a shepherd, an empathetic helper, companion, as people make their spiritual journey and explore spiritual truth, and sometimes a healer, because eyes have to be opened and ears have to be opened to the truth. And you give pastors and church leaders the tools to do that. And may I say this, I'm not SDA. I have to I'm
Right,
so
right,
sorry.
right. Methodist.
I'm a Methodist.
Yeah,
Right,
no,
Methodist, right.
I will say this, and I'm going to say it at the convention in King of Prussia on September 17th when I keynote there. And I'm going to make this point that we all Christians need the witness of the Seventh-day Adventist Church because you set us straight on so many things, including, of course, which is the seventh day, and which is the first day. And that's terribly important to know. So all that simply to say that the gift you have given goes beyond the borders of any particular fellowship of churches. Everyone can benefit from this, from Pentecostals to Presbyterians. And everyone in between will benefit greatly from your work.
Thank you.
And that's, I'll let others treat all the other elements, but that's
Yes.
how I see it. And I applaud you for it. And it was a great honor for me to do an early read of your work and then to give you a blurb for it because you made it so simple. I didn't have to invent anything. I just said it like it was. So congratulations on the release of your
Thank
volume.
you, sir.
Dr.
Thank
Shannon,
you.
can I ask you, and thank you for this. This feels like an episode of This Is Your Life, does it not? I would really, I would be, because I saw somewhere where you said, you know, I repented of this idea, and I'm listening to you react and respond to what Dr. Pollard has written, and I'm wondering what, from your perspective, was persuasive, the most compellingly persuasive, because I hear you say it was just as much the manner, the sensitivity with which he covered it. And I'm wondering if there's also a substantive idea that caught your eye.
Well, it would be hard for me to say because I think my experience has been that people who are trapped by this deception need, they have different needs. There are some for which this is an emotional bond. They have found belonging in this movement. They have found certitude. People saying this is the way it is. And Dr. Pollard, you unravel that in a very keen and precise way. But at the same time, sometimes this is just a matter of what I call discipleship misformation. That they are disformed, if you will. It's a lack of proper discipling, proper instruction. There's error there, and you correct that. So I think what Dr. Pollard has done here is really given us something of a multi-lens. When we talk about a hermeneutic, and of course, not everybody is familiar. I often say hermeneutic. Right. A hermeneutic is the key to interpreting the meaning of something, the key that we use. And you've given us good keys for unlocking both truth and deception. And these are tools that we can use as spiritual caregivers ourselves, as disciple makers, as evangelists, as teachers of biblical truth and prophecy and all of it. So I can't really, I feel rather frustrated because I'd like to say there's one thing, but it's not. It's the totality of it, which is the reason I would tell anyone who buys your book, get serious about finishing it. Read the whole thing because you'll miss so much if you don't.
I didn't mean to back you in a corner, and truly, Dr. Pollard, you say that in the book. Don't try to skip to the end. kind of you want to take a moment right now and sort of to give us a without a spoiler. I don't know. I hope that you have spoilers. I don't know, but give us what is the lie that went around the world to which
Oh
you
boy. Oh boy. Well, the lie is, I want to say two things. I want to say, first of all, I thank my dear friend, Dr. Schenk. I thank him as a talking partner when I was first bringing these ideas all into one space. And William Talaferro, who brought us together, Talaferro, who was my classmate back in Oakwood, back in the 70s. Part of the one book that has been influential in my life has been a book by a psychologist named Jonathan Haidt. And Jonathan wrote a book called Why Good People Are Divided by Politics and Religion, right? And I forgot the first title of the book, and I quoted many times in the book. But what he basically shows is that one of the great weaknesses of approaching people on this topic is we seek to win the argument rather than win the person. And so a part of what I was trying to do was to win the person. You can win the argument and lose the person, right? You can win the argument and lose the person. So that's where the tenderness comes in. The second is this delusion conflates the aims of the state with the goals of the kingdom. And those two things, and Jesus said very clearly, my kingdom is not of this world. It's not, right? Right. But it uses a vocabulary, patriotism, God, country, Lee Greenwood, I'm proud to be an American. At least I know I'm free. I won't forget the men who gave that right to me, and I'll gladly stand. I mean, it's a beautiful song. The music, the melody, everything, its structure and all. Okay. But patriotism, appropriate patriotism is not nationalism. And so, but people don't often see that. So part of what I was trying to do in this work was to say, let's go back to what the gospel actually calls us to. And then let's respect and love the people. Even if we are in different poles, we need to be able to talk. I remember I had a gentleman who was here. I don't want to tell too many stories. I got 100 stories in the book, but one of the stories was a gentleman was here doing some work for us on the house. We live out in the country, so I live out in Trump territory. I'm in Athens, Alabama. That's Trump territory. Period. Okay, so he asked me a question, and I answered the question in a way that he liked. It was a question about morality. And he liked my answer. And this is what he said. He called his son and he said, hey, John, yeah, the righteous mind. That's it. The righteous mind. Why good people are divided by politics and religion. Thank you so much. And he called his friend over and he said, come over here. He's one of us. A single answer, a single prism. We agreed on that. And suddenly I was one of them. Okay. And I thought to myself, how do I help him move beyond that and begin to view life as a whole? But he was a single prism. There are lots of people like that. The second thing I think that's important is, and I don't let the left off the hook.
No, you don't.
See, right, because see, when we, some of us on the left, when we attacked everything that people considered to be the foundation of humanity, of morality, of governance, of all of that was dismissed and shuttled off to the side in the 60s and the 70s, it left a vacuum. And by the time you get to the 70s, Jerry Falwell, Heritage Foundation, they say, you know something? Those people are wrong. We got the answer here. So Haidt also talked about the 6 moral foundations, the moral languages that people speak. He said that the left consistently speaks 2, care and equity, but it doesn't speak the other languages, family, authority. You see, the other 4 languages matter too: sovereignty, community, It doesn't speak any of those languages. And so into that vacuum, Christian nationalism actually steps. And just because these values were dismissed didn't mean that people stopped believing them, as we saw in 2015, 2016. A lot of people were looking for someone to say, wait a minute, whether the person practiced it or not, whether he believed it or not, whether he lived it or not, the language being used was a language that people were resonating with. And of course, the last point I would make, I cite Haidt on one section. He talks about the elephant and the rider. The elephant being moral intuition, the rider being the rational mind. He said, and often we want to think that the rational mind is guiding the elephant, but the elephant is going with where it resonates and what it feels and what it eats and what it sees. He says, and then the rational mind, it is no longer in charge, but the rational mind becomes the press secretary for the elephant, explaining why the elephant is doing what it's doing. And how many press conferences haven't we seen?
Yeah.
How many press conferences have we seen explanations for things that we say, wow, how do you stand at the mic and try to explain that? But that's what a press secretary does. It explains where the elephant goes. The elephant follows its resonance. It's an amazing analogy he uses.
Yeah.
Well, Dr. Pollard, I really appreciate the analogy, but tell us once again, your book is coming out September 1. How can our listening audience get your book?
Okay, so it's coming out September 1, and of course it's up on Amazon right now. So I had, like, on my little thing here, a little QR code. You can, take a picture of it and then buy it, after Sabbath or some such thing. But if it wasn't a Sabbath, I'd tell you, you could buy it. So with that said, though, Bob appreciates this because he's at Hebrew College. So, so that being said, though, so September 1 is the release, and it's I think the way it's written, it has resources for pastors in it, resources for congregational leaders to have discussions about this. Oh, by the way, we've got a young researcher. I cite her in the book. We've got a young researcher from the University of Alabama, and she uses the basic tests of Christian nationalism. Those 6 questions that the scholars use. Do you believe prayer in public schools? Do you believe 6 questions? And she administered that survey in Northern Alabama. And guess what? 34% of the Black people that she interviewed qualified as Christian nationalists. 34% of them. Now that's something that should cause us to pause. Now, when you don't call it Christian nationalism and just ask the questions, what she said was, if you answer 4 out of the 6, out of Whitehead's survey, you qualify.
Right.
Fascinating.
That myself at churches, because most people say, what's wrong with wanting to live in a country where, people believe the same thing you do, that you're not having an influx of other people who are bringing in different values, different ideas. What's so wrong with that? What's wrong with prayer in schools? Yes, we're a Christian nation. Yes, the founders. There's a lot of people, including the people that I understand, get run over by Christian nationalism, kind of adhere to some of the ideas. And
absolutely.
I know we were probably about to move on, but I wanted to ask you about what you think personally when you talk about, do I say his name? Haidt?
Jonathan Haidt. Haidt. Yeah.
When you talk about his ideas, sometimes that leaves me feeling as maybe I wonder where the Black community fits in, because there are many people who are conservative, yet some, our antennas are up because we see there was a study by PRRI the last 2 years, right?
Right.
And
Right.
4 correlates with Christian nationalism, anti-Blackness was one of them.
Mhm,
And so
mhm.
for me, there is going to be a very aggressive pushback. But here you're asking us to take it slow and let's talk about it. It's not just anti-Blackness, but anti-Semitic and anti-Muslim, traditional gender roles. So help me with those kinds of things, because I don't think that my community has left a void, but yet we're getting run over.
Well, my book is full of proverbs, and one of the proverbs is a Zimbabwean proverb: "When the elephants fight, the grass is trampled."
Okay.
Okay, so there are many scholars who actually say, if you think about Christian nationalism, it is really a fight, a war between the white right and the white left.
Hmm.
That's over what kind of country. It's a war within the majority. What kind of country are we going to be? With the right claiming the the founders were Christian, and the progressives saying that was never ever true, etc.
Mhm.
And others are caught in the crossfire of that fight. And there's a strong argument for teasing that apart and helping people see that in some ways you are actually not only ancillary as a minority of ethnicity, of religion, you're not only an ancillary, but you will also be a victim of this. So you have a stake in how this fight turns out. And then we need to be able to name the elements that directly impact us. In every survey, Black people are found to be among the most religious in the country. You know that in almost every survey. And to some people's surprise, Woody, the most patriotic in the country.
Hmm.
Interestingly, some of the most patriotic. And so when you begin to conflate the cross and the flag, June 6, 2021, you see the cross and the flag. When the Capitol is invaded, they're carrying the
January.
cross and a flag.
Mhm.
And you have, I think it's chapter 3, I show the correlation between violence against minorities and religious nationalism globally. So what we saw really fits the design of religious nationalism, in this case, Christian nationalism, around the world. And there's researchers who have teased that out. So as Christian nationalism rises, incidents of hate, of violence, and all those things are going to follow that ascendancy. So we've got a lot of skin in the game, and but I never want to lose sight of the people, as my dear friend Dr. Schenk points out, who are caught, and often. I tell the story in one of the chapters of the grandfather when the girl comes home from college, and she's I tell the story of the grandfather, and the grandfather is listening to the preacher, and in the cadences of a revivalist, he's talking about our country and we need to take it back. And the grandfather is nodding, but the young lady who has just come back from college, she says she knows there's something about that doesn't ring completely true. The founders were Christians and the da 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 da. But she knows that that's not complete. And how do they even have a conversation? Because grandpa is resonating with something that is being lost.
Right.
And I believe, Rob, we got this lady in the Adventist church called Ellen G. White, and we love her writings.
I know, I have her on my shelf.
Okay. And one of the things she says is Christ's method alone will give success in reaching the people. And what did he do? She said he empathized with them. He sympathized. He ministered to their needs. He won their confidence. Then he said, follow me. And sometimes when political partisanship divides us, it's hard to do that. But that's what children of the kingdom are called to do. That's what we're called to do.
Once again, we'd like to thank Dr. Pollard for coming on. Want to remind you that the book will be available September 1st ebook on Amazon Kindle and Google Play Books. And please, 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 you see the QR code. He was very strategic to put the QR by his ears to make sure we are listening to how to get the QR code. So please get the QR code and look at the book. We have some other guests that are here that will be a part of the Conscience and Justice Council. So
Yes, I
Dr.
will be.
Pollard, we once
I
again
will
want to
be.
thank you for being with us and look forward to engaging you more in the near future. And Dr.
Thank
Shink,
you.
since you'll be one of our featured speakers at CJC, we're going to ask that you remain with us. Thank you so much,
Okay.
Dr. Pollard.
Thank you, sir. And remember, the book is also in Spanish because we need
Yes,
to reach
sir.
as many communities
Spanish.
as we can. Thank you. All right.
All right.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Okay, in addition to Dr. Shink, we also have Jody Dodd, two of our presenters that will be at the Conscience and Justice Council convention with the theme Religious Freedom and Democracy, Fractured, Fragile, or Firm. And we are so grateful to have both of you with us, Dr. Shink and Sister Judy Dodd. And Dr. Shink, we're going to just go straight to Judy Dodd and come right back to you. Jody, I'm sorry, I said Judy. Jody, you are a restorative justice facilitator that works in the Philadelphia DA's office. How does that work? I thought you were supposed to prosecute me.
I can't hear you.
You can't hear me at all? Okay, can you check your speakers and see if they're on the right source? Because everyone else can hear.
Oh no, I don't know.
Because we hear you.
I don't know if you can hear me. The sound, I heard everything from the previous show, which was wonderful. So maybe I'll just go for my cue from Edward, who was like, "Let me share with you a little bit about what we're going to be talking about at the council." Hopefully that'll work. And I wish I could hear you all, but I can't. So my name is Jody Dott. I am the restorative justice facilitator at the Philadelphia District Attorney's Office in Philadelphia, obviously. And I am going to be working with Reverend Donna Jones at the conference, who is the community-based restorative cities coordinator of all the restorative justice work. And we're going to share with everyone, how does this work, where you're going to take cases out of the criminal system and move them back to the community and have the community take people through a restorative justice process where the goal is, instead of a crime punishment, it's a harm healing. That the focus is on, how do you repair harms? How do people heal together? How do you create reconciliation? And I'm very excited to tell you that I've been doing this now for 8 years, and I have had cases with people that are charged with aggravated assault and robbery and attempt murder, and have had people go through that process together and have had just tremendous outcomes with it. So I'm really looking forward to sharing with all of you, because I think I'm really excited about this conference, because I don't often get to talk about the spiritual element and component of the work that we're doing, but it is very much it's a work of spiritual work as well. So I'm delighted to be able to share that with folks, and I look forward to being there. And I don't know if you have questions, because I can't hear you.
No, well, you did an excellent job of giving a teaser so people know what to expect with your presentation. I know you can't hear me, but you did a great job teasing us about restorative justice.
I'll see you there.
All right. Thank you so much.
Take care. Bye.
And Dr. Shink, go ahead and tell us a little bit about your keynote. You teased us a little bit, but we'll let you finish and let you go on your merry way. We appreciate the bonus time you provided us this evening.
My pleasure. And I'm going to be looking to get into Jody's session, because that's some rich material and very practical. As far as my keynote address, talk, it will be really more of a sharing of my heart and my experience. As I mentioned, You know, at this season of life, I'm in my own reformation
Mm.
in a spiritual sense because I spent 3 decades in a place I wished I hadn't spent time in, and that is the extreme religious right. In fact, the very movement that has spawned Christian nationalism as an erroneous false gospel, is what I'll call it. But because I know the internal workings of that, including all the principal personalities, all the primary actors in that space, I know them personally. I worked shoulder to shoulder with them. Some are new, they've emerged since I left the movement a dozen years ago, but most are still there. And my talk will be a wild ride. I must prepare everyone because it will be quite a roller coaster because I'll be giving the worst of it, and it's worse than anyone could imagine. In fact, I'll be bringing a particular show and tell that I guarantee will have the room aghast and agape. Hard to believe that it's real, but you will see the real thing in my hands, and it will tell you just how false a gospel this Christian nationalist apostasy. I'm sorry that I can't be more guarded in my language. Some people choose to call it a heresy. I call it an abandonment of the true gospel.
Wow.
And I will demonstrate it with something in my hands I can show you in 3 dimensions. But I will also tell you the best of the story. And that is how people like myself and others are finding freedom and truth again. But there's another element to this, and that is that within the Christian nationalist movement more broadly, you will often find some of the best people and some of the worst people embodied in the same person at the same time in the same moment. And I'll talk a little bit about that too, so that we don't have a 2-dimensional view of this crisis, but a 3-dimensional view. And with the help of people like Jody and Dr. Pollard and so many of your other esteemed speakers and presenters, we'll be able to tackle this thing. And with God's help, we will return to a faithful gospel. And so don't think I'll be Debbie Downer at the table. I'll leave you elevated.
I can't
with hope.
Do we have the time, the date and time? This is at the Conscience and Justice.
This is during the convention. Dr. Sheik will be speaking on Thursday at 8:00 p.m. And for those of you who want to get the schedule, I want to encourage you to go ahead and register for the convention. But if you go to this website and you click on additional information, you will see the agenda of when all of the speakers, I repeat, all of the speakers will be speaking right there on the convention website. And we are so looking forward to Dr. Shink, and he has graciously extended his time. He's going to be with us not just on Thursday, but also on Friday to engage with some information, but also to talk and get to know. He is a delightful human being, very warm. He invited me to be his brother right away. And so we are brothers, not just brothers in Christ, but brothers because of his character, his kindness, his warmness, and his willing to be open and transparent about his story. So Dr. Shink, we look forward to seeing you. Thank you so much for being with us this evening. And guess what, folks? You can hear in person. And guess what? He's bringing a book. He's bringing a book. So you can get his book as well. If you come to the Conscience and Justice Council Convention, once again, want to encourage you to register. And here's the website to register. The early registration rate ends on this coming Friday, September 4th. Dr. Shink, thank you so much. Appreciate you being here.
Look forward to seeing you and hearing you. at the
Thank
convention.
you for the honor of the invitation and to be in your good company tonight. Good night.
Thank you.
See you soon.
And now we're also happy to bring to the stage. I call her Esquire because I'm so proud of her. And
Yeah.
she is like an adopted niece, but she is a brilliant writer, a brilliant editor. She was outstanding as one of the members of our policies and procedures. She probably doesn't think I remember that, of our Bethel Community Seventh day Adventist Church. She is an attorney in her own right and a
Mhm.
wonderful writer who has her own blog. We like to welcome the movement lawyer herself, no stranger to CJC Conversations, Nia Langley.
Thank you. I'm going to say formally for the purpose of the stream, thank you, Elder Woods, for the introduction and everybody who's been here on camera and before. It's good to be in your company this evening. Also happy to share that my sister, Aaliyah Langley, and I will be, among other things, co-presenting together on the subject of election issues that impact millennials. I need to start out by saying to remind or inform people that millennials are ages 30 to 45. Often people talk about millennials as if we're Gen Z, and while we love them, we are not them. And so there are a lot of issues that are relevant to us. We, as millennials, have grown up for probably the totality of our lives in unprecedented times, probably longing for some precedented times and a new kind of politics. And so we want those politics to reflect the issues that we care about that impact us, but also other generations, and not just us personally, but our neighbors and strangers. And while those impacts may feel different, many of those things are the same. And so some of the stuff we'll be talking about, my sister works in public health. I work currently in housing, is an affordability crisis. We are in a time where people can't afford, frankly, to live. Sometimes even socially, it's expensive to have a social life. It's expensive to have a home. Some people can't afford a home. We had parents and grandparents who could afford homes, and many millennials are not in that situation. They are renting, sometimes in apartments, oftentimes with roommates, because that's what's accessible to them. Millennials are in a job crisis, or not able to find work at all, or things that are commensurate with the education they were so strongly encouraged to get. We're in a time, and it's been talked about a little tonight, where while it's not disappeared, racism, bigotry, homophobia, xenophobia, Islamophobia are rearing their ugly heads more prominently. And not just because of this administration. This is something that has been tracked over time, and even our recent history, in a time where white supremacy is in a more emboldened place, in a more prominent place. And we're dealing with that. We're dealing with the legislation against our voting rights, our civil rights, our human rights. We're seeing our immigrant neighbors, namely, but not only our Latina brothers and sisters and family and friends and strangers being ripped out of the streets, out of their homes, out of their places of worship, out of their jobs, and placed in cages, sent to countries that they do not know well or at all. We are seeing before our eyes, on our phones, online, on the news, what organizations, legal bodies, and experts have deemed a genocide, and yet we can't call a thing without fear of retribution or being accused of having hate for ourselves. And so voting rights are being stripped, things are happening here and abroad. And what does that mean when you're also trying to have a life and trying to build a life, and all of these things are happening? There's information fatigue. What does it mean to vote? What does it mean to engage civically, and to hope that the politicians that you vote for, the politicians who are trying to solicit your support, will they actually be working for you? And so that's the conversation we hope to have. How do we engage with voting? Is it just voting your morals? Is it a form of harm reduction? And what can we do to encourage and entering intra-generational conversation and learning with each other, so that we can also learn from the generations before us, the generations after us, Gen Z, and frankly whatever generation is after Gen Z, and the people before us, and how does that learning inform how people work for and with each other, so that we can move forward and bring ourselves to a more fair, more equitable, more loving, more just world, not just for us, but for everyone. It's not something that should just benefit us, but conscious injustice working to make this world better for everybody, regardless of your background, regardless of your religion, regardless of your socioeconomic status in what you believe. And so I'm looking forward to having that conversation with my sister, Aaliyah Langley. We will be presenting on September 18th, which is that Friday. And thank you again for the time. Looking forward to it. Also looking forward to Ms. Valerie Lee's presentation as well. I'm intrigued.
Well, the reason why we have both of you together is you'll be a panelist for Dr. Lee's presentation. We're very excited to have the Dr. Valerie Lee, Vice Provost for Diversity and Inclusion. I want to show her Buckeye respect because we all have an ongoing bantering between the Buckeyes and the Michigan teams, but the Dr. Valerie Lee from the Ohio State University is going to be here, and she is going to address critical white studies and Black literary voices at the Conscience and Justice Council Convention as a keynote presenter. And we're very happy to have someone of her intellectual prowess with us to share her leadership and expertise and scholarly research on these items. So without further ado, Dr. Lee, share with us about what you're going to discuss at the Conscience and Justice Council Convention.
Okay, well, first of all, I do want to say that the OSU Buckeyes are going in the season as #1, okay?
Oh, I see you got Michigan green on. It looks like a Spartan fan today.
But do you see all that red behind me?
It's spectacular. I don't know if my glasses are having some problems, but we receive it. We receive it.
Okay. Well, I'm planning to discuss how a lack of understanding of certain scholarly studies and certain intellectual traditions has led to a profound loss of DEI initiatives, for one thing. I happen to have been the VP, as you said, of the Office of Diversity and Inclusion. And at the time that I served in that capacity, I do believe it was the largest unit in the country because I had 80 direct reports under me, and that doesn't include all of the diversity officers for all the different departments and colleges on campus. So it was really large. Of course, all of that has been dismantled. And one of the things that I would probably discuss, if there are questions in that regard, are questions in terms of if students still want scholarships, what should they do? How has that whole process changed, and things of that nature because of the profound loss of DEI initiatives. And also what I will be discussing, given that I'm going to be talking about critical white studies and its relationship to African American writers, I will be discussing this devastating erasure of American history that I think these narratives try to deal with, and also the ever increasing whitening of Western Christianity, because I know that will connect with some of the material that other speakers will be talking about. But in general, I'm going to be talking about how whiteness became an unmarked space, an invisible norm, and an unnamed status. And currently, it's unchecked. And there have been really grave political, social, and religious consequences. So we have had 250 years really of normalizing whiteness. And so I will be talking about that. And I want to, I'll probably begin with the question of how is it that there has been so much opposition to critical race theory, CRT, and that's a movement that has been led by African American scholars, whereas its sisterly companion, critical white studies, has largely escaped the same opposition. So when you look at critical white studies, and I will be showing some of the books in that whole area, its goal has been to end the silence on whiteness and to dispute the notion that race color. But when you actually look at the work of those scholars, the critical white theorists, they themselves, and they started this around in the 1990s, they themselves argue that not only is race a social construction, of course, but their very ancestors, you know, their immigrant families did not come over here as white people, but they came over here as Italians, as Greeks, as Irish, and they learned to be white as part of their survival in America. So I will be talking about that. I will talk about how we have these books that have been out now for several decades, how the Irish became white is one of them, how Jews became white folks, that's actually a title, and on and on. These books on the invention of the white race. So critical white study scholars have discussed also why it is so hard for white people to talk about racism. So you have this book by a white author called White Fragility, and it talks about why it's so difficult for whites to even have a conversation about whiteness. And that book came out because, of course, as we were teaching about slavery and everything, people started complaining, how do you think little white kids feel in a classroom? They feel guilty or embarrassed. You know, they don't think about how the Black children feel with all of that. So you have that particular movement going on. And at the same time, you have the critical white studies movement going on and its sister field, critical race studies. You have these African American voices, and that's what I really like to talk about because at heart, I'm a professor of literature. And so you have these African American voices who have written so much about race in America. They've written so much in their own writings to keep at bay this swelling tide against Blackness and against immigrants and the substitution of this white God for the God of our weary years. So I'm going to start my presentation when I get to the literature part with slave narratives. And I know that some people say, why can't Black people forget about slavery? You know, slavery is over. Why are you going back to slavery? Well, of course, I need to go back to slave narratives because actually we have been enslaved for more years than we have been free. And so this idea that we should just forget about it, no one told the Israelites that. God constantly told them to remember when you were in slavery, remember. But when it comes to African Americans, we hear people telling us all the time, get over slavery, it's over with. But I'm going to go back to slavery, and I want to just deal with one particular slave narrative. And this one was by a woman called Harriet Jacobson. She wrote it under the pseudonym of Linda Brent, because of course, if you're escaping slavery, you can't use your real name. That has become, that particular slave narrative has become as popular as Frederick Douglass's one, believe it or not. And I want to start with that one because that is one that clearly shows that there were different versions of Christianity, because this particular slave woman is caught between which of two influential Christian men will be her rapist. So it's very much a really good autobiography in terms of understanding so much about race in America. And then I'm going to move into what I would call the neo-slave narratives, because Black writers have never stopped writing about slavery because they feel that we are still enslaved in so many ways. So you have all of these 20th and 21st century neo-slave narratives that deal with all of these issues on America and democracy and what freedom means. And I'm going to focus especially on Toni Morrison. And I'm going to focus especially on Toni Morrison because she has won every last literary award there is, the Pulitzer Prize, the National Book Award, and of course, Nobel Prize for Literature. And also, because we are in America 250 in my state, in Ohio, we are celebrating Toni Morrison all year long. So when you go to the public libraries and community centers and everything, there are things on Toni Morrison because she's someone who has written about America and what's going on in America. Her books start in the 1600s and they go straight into the 1990s, and she's done everything, essays on Clarence Thomas and her predictions of how he would act on the Supreme Court, all of which have become true. O.J. Simpson, she's just written on so many different things in terms of her essays. And the other thing about Toni Morrison that I really like is that she has this statement that I'm going to kind of center my presentation around, where she says that definitions belong to the definers and not the defined. And that is a very powerful statement because it lets you know how it is that we are still underdogs in so many different ways. So I'm going to be talking mostly from what has happened in the academic arena in universities, because the hard right has really done a lot of damage to universities. And so I'll be talking about that. When you talk about America and you talk about democracy, the universities have taken a hard hit. And I think it's because everyone realizes that it's at universities where the future generations learn to think, and where they are given their kind of graduation into the world and to know how they should perform in that world. So in sum, I'm really interested in how is it that to be aware, to be awake has become the negative woke. Going back to what Toni Morrison said, who's in charge of all of these definitions? And that's pretty much what it will be about. I'll talk about different writers and what they have said in terms of their predictions of what America would be, and what they have to teach us how to navigate what are really difficult times. I think we truly are living in a time when that certainly Martin Luther King Jr. would call the fierce urgency of now.
This is like folks who are coming to this particular presentation are getting Dr. Valerie Lee a course, but this is probably like 20 years worth of coursework in one session. You're going to get under her expert tutelage. I can't wait to hear all of this. Let's see. This is going to be good. And I'm there at that one. Am I not, Woody?
Yes, you are.
This is
you are there. We are very grateful that Message Magazine, Carmela Montcrawford, the editor, will be sponsoring this session. And Nia, I know you have other things to do, so if you have to go, I respect that, but appreciate you listening to Dr. Lee. I thought it might be helpful just to get an idea of where she's going, knowing such an avid reader, brilliant English scholar that you are, with regards to that. So thanks for your patience.
Yes. Thank you. I just do have to say first, as an English major in undergrad and one who studied critical race theory in law school, I'm really looking forward to that, Professor Lee. And Ms. Carmela, it's good to see you. I haven't seen you in a while, so I'm looking forward to touching base with you in Philly. And again, thank you as well, Uncle Woody, Elder Woods, for the time. I'm looking forward to seeing you all and everybody else at the CJC convention. So thank you for your time today.
All right. Thank you so much. Appreciate you.
Movement lawyer. You go. You just go.
All right, Dr. Lee, we come in peace. So you have dropped a lot of bombs, as Carmela has already shared. Looking forward to seeing you be engaged with us, and happy that you're staying the whole weekend so that we can see who has the best paraphernalia for their schools. I have to make sure I pack up and pack right to make sure I have at least better items than your husband. That's my goal. Better items than your husband. And my rook partner will be there. So if there's a need to settle a score,
bring it.
My partner is coming. Fordham will be there. The rook champions. I have to tell you, we're the Oakwood University alumni rook champion. We won.
Well, I hope you get some practice in, though. You get some practice.
We don't need any practice. We're ready to go. The trophy is on.
Yeah,
But it's good to see. I think, and then, I think you already know what happened. I forgot what your score was, but y'all were knocking at the door and didn't see it the last time we played with Bobby Cochran. Y'all thought y'all saw the sunlight, but it never happened. But it's always good to see you, your husband, and your great children who are doing wonderful things, all Oakwood grads. So it's good to just...
Oh, yes, all Oakwood grads, yes.
All Oakwood grads. All right, well, thank you again for joining us.
Okay.
And now we'll transition to someone else. Look forward to seeing you once again, ladies and gentlemen. If you want to come to the Conscience and Justice Council Convention to hear these dynamic speakers, here's how you can register. We have something for millennials, Gen Z, baby boomers, Gen X, silent generation, and of course the book. Let's talk about the book. Sister Locking Discourse will be available. This is a session where we're getting books from our presenters on sale. So come loaded with some money or your Zelle or your Cash App to get the books from our various authors who will be joining us at the convention. Thank you so much, Dr. Lee.
Thank you.
All right. I can't wait.
Right. We have two more distinguished guests. Here they are. The doctors are in the house from the Seattle, Washington. That's right. Dr. Ron Ruthruff and Dr. Paul Hord are going to do our pre-convention symposium, And I want to let the cat out the bag, but you know what? I'm going to let them do it, Carmela, because I had the privilege of seeing them at the Christian Community Development Association in Grand Rapids, Michigan. I was just blown away by the presentation that said, you know what? We have to have this at the Conscience and Justice Council. So without further ado, Ron and Paul, take it away. Tell us what you're going to talk about and what we're going to get from it.
Well, thank you so much for having us for this short conversation. How about if I start by telling you a little bit of the background and Paul can tell you what we want to do in the workshop. How does that sound, Paul?
Sounds good to me. Take it away, Ron.
So a few years back, I got a very interesting invitation to a Wabash Fellowship. And it happened, I happened to say, boy, I would really like to have that conversation. And it literally was a call for white professors that were interested in doing anti-racism work. A little bit about me, I worked with kids on the street for 30 years before I became an academic. I like to tell people I'm sort of an accidental academic or an irreverent reverend, whichever you would prefer. But that being said, the issue of race and justice was always very interesting to me. And I thought the Academy could learn a few things. And I was really excited to make application. Well, unbeknownst to me, Dr. Hord made application as well. He's in the psychology department. I'm in the theology department at the graduate school. And we both were accepted in this fellowship where we spent a year in conversation about anti-racism postures for white folk, which was a very, very interesting conversation. But that led us to me writing an article in a magazine out here called Christ in Cascadia, where I began to ask, why do white liberals present such a what I would say ideologically anti-racist posture, but they don't embody very much anti-racist action? Okay. And that led to Paul and I beginning to have a conversation, and we're given an opportunity to do some grant research, to receive a grant and do some research around the Pacific Northwest, especially among liberals who identified as anti-racist. And boy, we just found out a lot of good things and just dug deep into sort of the theological and psychological lenses that really limited us as people of faith from entering into anti-racist action. So all that research began to form a workshop that we did at CCDA last year that was really well received. And to be quite candid, it's two white men trying to figure out why white people who articulate verbally the right things are limited in their anti-racist action. So Paul, tell them what we're going to do at the workshop.
Yeah, thanks for the setup. So I'm actually a mental health counselor by trade. So Ron brings the theology, and I bring more of the kind of psychological mental health perspective. And so a lot of what we've been trying to do in our work together is then bring those together to say, how can they complement one another? So our first part that we really try to take apart is tease out what Ron just described. So the title of our talk is From Aspirations to Actions, and sort of trying to interrogate, there can be lots and lots of high-minded aspirations, and yet then continued problematic structures in both on an individual level, on a systemic level. And we're specifically looking at our hometown, looking at Seattle, looking at the organizations we've been a part of, and the struggles we personally have absolutely been a problem when we've contributed to. And so what we do in this workshop is I take a little bit in the beginning to set up psychologically, what are some of the frameworks that are happening when we want to interrogate the way white body supremacy and whiteness is at work within these structures, and then within the individual bodies and the people, starting with stories from ourselves, from our lived experience. And then Ron takes some of the stuff that I'm going to kind of lay the foundation on around on kind of a psychological basis of what's happening affectively, somatically, and also sociologically. And Ron starts locating that within history and theologically. Where do we see some of these different systems working together, and sometimes beautiful ideas that get taken over by unconscious processes and utilized to reinforce oppression and reinforce a whole lot of really problematic ideas. And so we then try to, and part of the one things I'm really excited about is in our time here, we have sort of the luxury of time to be able to not only identify some of these barriers, but then begin to move into, okay, so what are some ways that we can start cultivating what Ron calls a community of credibility, where instead of just, because sometimes work around anti-racism or around awareness becomes focused on this idea of competence, how to, like, as a counselor, we're often told we need to be competent to work with different types of individuals. And that misses the deeply relational aspect of what we're asking people to do. And what we've found in our own personal lives has been so essential, in that it's not just what have I read. That's important to read. It's important to study, and it's important to do that. Absolutely. But it's also, how does that get lived out in my relationships? How does that get lived out in my day-to-day life? How is that lived out in the structures that I both build, but then that I maintain, and then that I contribute to? And so those are some areas that we're going to riff off with each other. And the idea of the workshop is not just for us to be talking at a whole bunch of people, but also for this to be kind of a dynamic interaction where we can work together to start dreaming new ways of belonging, new ways of coming together, so that we're not reproducing the existing structures that have caused so much harm for so long. Ron, anything you'd want to add to that?
Just that I want to continue to communicate that we really hope this becomes a conversation that we can have with people who can literally talk of their experience of what has added to a credible organization doing anti-racist work, or what adds to the credibility of an individual who wants to become anti-racist. I feel like there's going to be a whole bunch of nuggets, gold nuggets in that room. And we want to very humbly and very honestly, we want to continue to learn how we can be good advocates for diversity, equity, and inclusion, while still, presenting ourselves as what I call the Trinitarian form of privilege, white, cisgender male. So how do we have a conversation that can add to our understanding of what it actually looks like to be credible? And once again, what Paul said is very true. I find the word competency really dangerous, because it communicates that we can arrive at a place and then we don't have any more work to do. I think credibility and the relational dynamic of credibility speaks to the ongoing work of continuing to unlearn the ways of the dominant culture and to relearn ways of engagement that doesn't sit doesn't continue to promote the dynamics of power and exclusion.
Boy, that sounds so interesting. I can't wait to see that one either. These are all good. These are all good. I can't wait to see how this plays out. Do you think that I, as a Black woman, would be able to, in any way, speak to the dynamic that you're talking about? I mean, do you think your workshop will, I guess, kind of cover that?
Well, I hope the workshop would do two things. I hope the workshop would affirm in the mouths of two white men that you ain't crazy, and two, I hope that it would give you a platform to say, if you were doing this work in my community, this is what I would need to see from white people for this work to feel authentic. So my hope is not only that we say you ain't crazy, but my hope is that you contribute to, this is what credibility would look like in my organization. And this is where I've seen the dynamics of anti-racism fall short, or the dynamics of inclusion to be more aspirational than action oriented. So we're not hoping for a download of information from two, professors on the left coast. What we're really hoping for is a conversation where we can all grow in our awareness of how whiteness and the dynamic of whiteness invades every space, and it really, really causes everybody to miss what's best in a community. And then two, what we hope is that you all can teach us, and that in a workshop that we're all, there's a dynamic going on. There's a dynamic process in which we're all learning from each other.
All right. Thank you so much.
When you hear wokeism, I'm sure you've heard that quite a bit. How do you address that? Because we're hearing it more and more and more and more. Every time they want to shoot down woke, they come up with wokeism, and not wokeism, wokeism. How do you address that?
Paul, you want to speak to that, or do you want me to?
I can say that a number of different ways. I think the label has changed over the decades as to what we're going to be against. We being whatever broad society, whatever person is talking. But the overall result is creating a group of people or an idea that is so threatening to my sense of who I am that I can rally those around me to fight against it. And what it does is create an in-group out of exclusion. And this is one of these mechanics we really want to interrogate and play with during the workshop. And one of the things I like to talk about is how sometimes that desire to feel like somebody you belong, to feel like you're a part of something, gets captured through the urge to then push somebody else out. If I feel like I don't belong, the easiest way to feel like I do is to find somebody that I can push out the door first. because then I must be in if I'm pushing somebody else out. And I think that's what that label of woke is doing. It's currently the label that we hear all the time used to say, now I don't have to worry about what that person is saying. I don't have to listen to it. I can plaster a label on them and then disappear. Instead of saying, hey, if we're, like, what happened to love? what does it mean to actually listen to other people? What if we can let go of things about like political labels and actually try to love our neighbor as ourselves? What if we actually claim to try to love others and love God? And can we all be just intensely interested in finding ways to love better? And I think that's really what, for me, it comes down to, is that regardless of the label, because those are often created to separate and to distinguish and so that I can feel like I belong, I'll create a label for those that don't, and then make sure that they're pushed out. Yeah. And that label has taken many different forms over the years. And I think right now that's one of those political labels. And so, I mean, calling somebody woke suddenly, brings in a whole bunch of associations that may have nothing to do with the person and may be different person to person, but it's so often used as a way to hide, as a way to distance.
And it also, it becomes, I understand the more conservative critique of that label, because I think they find, and this is what they intuitively know, that it almost becomes its own form of a defense. And that defense becomes really problematic in being introspective. And I would just say this about wokeism. I think that anytime you, I think that the dynamic of sort of white exceptionalism becomes really, really dangerous ground for wokeism to sort of nurture itself in, that it's one more form of you being able to present that you're exceptional. And this is where I want to go in the workshop. I think there's actually theological roots of that, especially through the Reformation, that are really problematic. I think we've conflated the term exceptionalism with biblical categories of chosenness and election, and we've misread what the intention of those theological categories are. And that has led us to all of these manifestations that don't literally reorganize the majority-minority dynamic that becomes really problematic in an intercultural conversation.
Mm-hmm. That is powerful. Once again, we will have the doctors in the house, Ron Bruthruff and Dr. Paul Hord, for our pre-convention symposium that starts 9:00 a.m. Thursday, September 17th at our hotel, Crown Plaza in Philadelphia, King of Prussia area. So once again, thank you, gentlemen, for being with us this evening. And we look forward to seeing you in about 3 weeks. Thank you again. Once again, you can
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
Look forward to seeing you.
Bye-bye.
Let's do.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
So Carmela, we have an all-star lineup of speakers that you can see here. And we were teasing select speakers that are going to come and be a part of the Justice and Conscience and Justice Council Convention, September 17th to the 20th in King of Prussia, Pennsylvania. And we are looking forward to seeing these great and dynamic speakers. And we have one of them who is with us tonight. And I would be remiss if we didn't thank him for being here, but just want to go back and talk about the Democracy Tour. September 16th, if you're coming in town, we'll be going by Independence Halls, the Liberty Bell, the National Constitution Center, the Reading Terminal Market, the President's House, and Mother Bethel. So this will be the pre-convention Democracy Tour that you can do Wednesday, September 16th. And the last one, what we just covered was the pre-convention symposium with Dr. Paul Hord and Dr. Ron Bruthruff. All right, without further ado, we have the Lucy Byard Symposium, and the keynote speaker this year, which is sponsored by Adventist Healthcare, is they selected Dr. Timothy J. Golden, PhD in philosophy and a holder of a Juris Doctorate degree. And we are excited to have him with us once again at the Conscience and Justice Council Convention. Tim, welcome to the broadcast, and tease us about your presentation.
Woody, and those kind words of introduction, and for having me here tonight. And Carmela, it's always good to see you. So I'm delighted to be here with you both. The title of my keynote address is Injustice Anywhere: Neo-Colonialism and Religious Violence in Nigeria. And what I want to do in this presentation is move beyond overly simplistic accounts of religious persecution of either Christians or Muslims in Nigeria to think America's role in Bible prophecy otherwise than its standard sort of traditional interpretation of what happens here in the United States.
Okay.
In other words, I'm trying to show that America can never be the full image to papal Rome domestically if it is not first operating internationally in that capacity. And so through the political theorist, the African political theorist, Akile Mbembe's work in both the critique of Black reason and necropolitics, I want to argue that neo-colonialism is a spiritual and moral condition. That is, there is a political theology of neo-colonialism that is obsessed with form and external appearance while promoting internal instability and chaos. And that is precisely what has happened to African nations like Nigeria, who, because of their oil reserves, have given the United States a very interesting geopolitical position in Africa. And so, what I want to argue is that when colonization is finished, we have African nations like Nigeria that declared independence in 1960, and they have all the external accoutrements of sovereignty. They have borders, they have an anthem, they have a flag, they have a government, but inwardly the countries are a shambles. And this is to the benefit of Western imperial nations like the United States, whose interest is to keep the domestic chaos alive long enough for them to manipulate the oil reserves and take from Nigerian countries like Africa. I liken the spiritual and moral condition of neo-colonialism to the condition of the demon-possessed man whose house is swept clean and neat, and yet more demons return, leaving that man worse off than he was before he was possessed in the first place, which I'm going to argue is precisely the position of many African nations under neo-colonial rule. One of the upshots of this presentation is to connect the people, specifically to connect the Black people in the United States, African Americans, with Africans, not only in Nigeria, but abroad, in the interest of overcoming petty differences about worship styles and getting Africans and African Americans to behold a common enemy, a common force that is manipulating both of them in the interest of world domination. And so those are my remarks. And I just really hope to get across the point, number one, that we can connect Africans and African Americans and begin to bridge that chasm of cultural difference. And two, I hope to get people to see that America can never be what it is prophesied to be domestically until it is functioning that way internationally.
Hmm. Hmm. That's deep. What led you to this particular study?
So, believe it or not, Carmela, this was a topic. Religious persecution of Christians in Nigeria was a topic that came up on the television show Faith and Politics
Oh,
recently.
okay.
And after that discussion on the show, I was always told when I was in graduate school, I was told by one of my dissertation advisors that when you get an idea, you have to immediately write it down because
Mm-hmm.
if not, you're going to lose it. And so I couldn't get that conversation out of my head. And so I immediately began thinking about the neo-colonial and how it works and how it operates. And Akile Mbembe is a wonderful African political theorist. He's from Cameroon,
Mm-hmm.
and he writes extensively about neocolonialism and its impact. And then I began that took me straight to the scriptures, right? This idea in 2 Timothy 3:5 that people in the last days would have a form of godliness, but
Okay.
no power. And then the idea in Matthew 12:44 and 45 of the demon possessed man who has the demons exorcised but doesn't fill the space with anything, and then something else comes in. And then lastly, there's that wonderful passage in Genesis 1, verse 2,
Mm-hmm.
in which the earth is described as empty prior to God's creation. And so, if we don't have something created in the void, there is a kind of default that gets created for us. And I think there's a way to understand what's going on in Nigeria with Christians and Muslims, frankly,
Mm-hmm.
who are persecuting and going after one another, and all the while global international corporations like Chevron continue to pull in record profits largely because of oil and natural resources in Nigeria. So that's what and I really just want people to think about international religious liberty questions
Yeah.
otherwise, right? I don't want us to just think about it in terms of some abstract idea of Jesus is coming again soon. And so we have to be prepared for that. And people all over the world are suffering. It's not just here in the United States, because historically, I think what we've done is we have globalized
Mm-hmm.
American well, I'm sorry, we have globalized Adventist eschatology to avoid talking about America. And we've often done that either because of a Christian nationalism
Mm-hmm.
or because we have a tendency to read Revelation 13 and defer America's role in prophecy to future events like a national Sunday law in a
Mm-hmm.
kind of inauthentic way rather than honestly engage America's history, in which it becomes clear that America's role in Bible prophecy is not a future event, but a current and historical condition, a
Mm-hmm.
condition of political and religious hypocrisy. So I'm grappling with these questions. And again, through the work of political theorist Akile Mbembe, I hope to connect I want to move toward a kind of a Christian Pan Africanism, in
Okay.
which African Americans can not look at Nigerians funny, and Nigerians don't look at African Americans funny, but the two of them see what is happening to both of them by the same power, and then figure out a way from there to move forward constructively to do some ministry for the least of these that are portrayed in the judgment scene of Matthew 25.
I appreciate the depth and the complexity and the breadth of that approach, in which I think many of us have that curiosity when it comes to our study and our approach to prophecy. We need to know what else is happening out there. How else does this apply? And when is this happening? And you see these things and you know they have these kinds of implications. I look forward to see and to hearing how you're going to lay this out for us.
Thank you, Carmela. Thank you very much. I'm looking forward to being there. I'm going to be in my hometown.
Back home.
I still got some family over there, so I get to see my sister and my nieces, and it's going to be a good time. And I'm always so grateful to Woody for his leadership with the CJC and the wonderful work that he's done. So, Woody, I can't wait to get there. And even though you're a Dallas Cowboys fan, I'm going to give you a big hug anyway.
Well, I'm glad the love of God has no bounds. So thank God.
That's right. That's right.
We appreciate that. But Tim, thank you for your research and what you bring to the table and how you challenge us to think and read more and dig deeper. I appreciate that that you bring to it. But ladies and gentlemen, this is for all of us. Whether you're woke or wokeism, I'm tired of the labels. We need to be about the gospel of Jesus Christ. We need to be, as Dr. Pollard said, about Christ's method of evangelism. And if we do not understand what is facing us, we cannot make a difference. So I welcome the challenges, the critiques, everything that will be a part of this, and particularly interested, Tim, in your topic and how you're linking that to Nigeria. So I definitely will be fully engaged. And for those who are wondering, the Lucy Byard Symposium takes place on Saturdays at 10 o'clock a.m. 10 o'clock a.m. Will take place at the Conscience and Justice Council Convention. If you look at your device in the comment section, you can register for the Conscience and Justice Council Convention that is taking place. Early registration ends September 4th, this coming Friday. And then the Voters Toolkit. We talked about the Voters Toolkit. Shout out to my brothers, Pastor Deblier Snell, Breath of Life Television Ministries, Pastor Roger Bernard, Office of Regional Conference Ministries, Carmela Monk Crawford, editor of Message Magazine, and Dr. Jesse Wilson, who is the executive director of the Bradford Cleveland Brooks Leadership Center, as well as the Pastor Evangelism Leadership Council. So appreciate our brothers with regards to that. The Voters Toolkit is at cjccouncil.org, and you can click on Our Votes Matter and get all of that information so that every time you have an event at your church or organization, you can check to see if people are registered, or you can verify their registration or register them on the spot. So take a look at that information. Take a look at the cheat sheet, because we're using vote411.org from the League of Women's Voters to be engaged. Once again, we don't tell people who to vote for. We don't ask people who they're voting for, but we encourage them to vote and to ensure democracy, because simply our votes matter. Carmela, anything closing comments you would like to provide before we close out?
No, thank you for the opportunity to be here in this very eye-opening conversation today. We had some really good information, and it's always good to see my friend Tim.
Carmela, it's always good to see you too. If I could just close with one last point, Woody and Carmela, I really want to encourage the people of color, in particular African Americans in church, to not be afraid of terms like Pan-Africanism and Black nationalism, because although we have a tendency to associate these terms with the Black Muslim movement of the 20th century, the historical reality is that Black nationalism and Pan-Africanism are 19th century movements that were often grounded in Christian ideas that came from Black intellectuals like Alexander Crummell, Louis Woodson, and Henry Highland Garnett. So don't let Black nationalism and Pan-Africanism make you think that you have to renounce your Christianity. These ideas began in Black Christian churches. So I just wanted to make that point.
Oh, you're going to school us when we get there. I can't wait. And I'm going to ask you one that
Hi,
maybe we
I'm
get off.
Dr. Heidi Olson.
Go ahead. Roll
No,
it.
no, go ahead. Go ahead and finish.
No. I'm fine. I was going to ask him about that art on his wall behind him with the big F on the bottom, but
Oh, that's the Emancipation Proclamation that I have framed, and then on the other side of it is the Bill of Rights, and right underneath the Bill of Rights is a picture of Charles Hamilton Hughes, and in the middle is a lithograph of Deuteronomy 16:20, "Justice, justice shalt thou pursue." Those are my marching orders.
all
So
right.
I know when I come to my home office to sit down and work, I don't have any time to play around.
You can't play around.
Got to be
Thank you.
serious.
Nice to see you, Tim.
Yes, Carmela, always good to see you too. Woody, thank
All
you,
right,
man.
thank you. Appreciate you. Take care.
Yes, sir.
All right, Carmela, we have a promo for Bossy Wives that I want to share at this time.
I'm so excited to be participating in the Conscience and Justice Council that will be held this fall in Philadelphia. My address for the conference is Bossy Wives and Preaching Women, and will explore the impact of the historic fundamentalist movement on the women's rights movement and how these two groups existed in conversation with each other in the United States. And in our discussion afterwards, we will be expanding beyond the turn of the 20th century America to explore how fundamentalism has interacted with women's rights throughout the centuries. I'm so excited about this conversation that we'll be having, and I hope you join us.
Carmela, that is, I mean, it's women's suffrage, fundamentalism, all coming to life, and we'll be there at the Conscience and Justice Council convention. We just want to show the breadth of what is taking place, the depth of what's taking place, and how you can interact with these dynamic speakers and panelists and workshop presenters that will be there. I'm really, really excited about this upcoming convention.
We got less than 2 weeks. Good.
Yep. So we got to get people to register. And then we have one more thing that I would like to share that I just think is phenomenal as it relates to this upcoming presentation. And this is from Pilara Zapita. It's Pilara Zapita. And I'm going to share this with you at this time. Let me see if I can just get it on the screen and navigate this thing. But she is coming all the way from England. And I'm just excited about this presentation. And it's talking about myths about the African religious expression. And this is something that's just going to be dynamite. And she's speaking on Sunday at 10 o'clock a.m. She will be one of our keynote speakers, and just happy to hear from her and what she's going to share as it relates to this particular presentation. Carmela, you've been to the Conscience and Justice Council quite a few times. What are the highlights? What are the highlights when you think about the convention? What sticks out the most to you?
I've been most of the time. I think I've only missed one since it started. And message has been there. And I think two things. I really love I know you don't call them field trips, but that's what they are. When we get
talking about the best practices.
When we go and we visit. I still remember when we visited that. Where was that? In Atlanta, and she was telling us about her ministry for human trafficking.
Tabitha's house.
Yes,
Tabitha's house.
That was deep, and she was on the cover as a modern day Harriet Tubman. So, I really enjoy those best practice field trips. But all of the information is really good, eye-opening. You will be woke after this, okay?
Let's go ahead and hear from Pilara.
And the title of my presentation is Myths and Truths, African Religious Expressions in Music. My aim in this paper is to rethink Adventist spirituality from a decolonial perspective. I question the Eurocentric roots of Adventist thinking about the Spirit, and I argue for a more inclusive, embodied, and relational approach. As a contemporary theologian who engages with liberative theology significantly in my work, I combine theological and historical analysis with my own experiences to show how engaging African spirituality can disrupt colonial mindsets and deepen our understanding on the Spirit's work across cultures. So in the paper, music features as an example of an embodied experience that I had, which enhanced my understanding of how coloniality intersects with our lived reality.
Mm.
So
Do you know
once
where she's
again,
from?
she is from England, around the London area, but I don't know where Newbold is, so I'm showing my ignorance. But she's coming from the Newbold College area. But we're really looking forward to her coming and sharing this. We actually met Pilara at the Pastoral Evangelical Leadership Council, PELC, which is led out by our very own Dr. Jesse Wilson Jr. In Huntsville, and she's tailoring, squeaking it, making some tweaks to talk about this African truths and myths about the African religious expression in music. So I just can't wait.
Yes. I see somebody says in the chat that you're really doing a good job at tempting them to get there. I see a Mercy. You're trying to draw me. Come on, Pastor Grissom.
Yeah, we're not trying. We are making the case. We don't want. How long will you halt between two opinions, Pastor? If the Lord be Lord, come to Philly. But if he's not, don't go. Because we feel that you are being tempted by the Spirit. And we want to invite each and every one of you to come, regardless of who you are, where you come from, what your denomination is. We want you to be there. This convention is for those 18 and older, to come out to the convention. So very excited about what's going to take place and want to encourage you once again to do two things. Participate in the Conscience and Justice Convention. And guess what? There's a virtual. If you can't come in person, come virtually. Come virtually and be a part of this broadcast. Come virtually. One of our speakers has just shared that he is excited. And this is Dr. Jason O'Rourke. Dr. Jason O'Rourke is going to speak about Revelation 13. And he's asking the question, is it a two-horned beast, or a unicorn? Is it a two-horned beast or a unicorn? And that's going to be a powerful message that will be delivered on Thursday evening at the Conscience and Justice Council. So you see our speakers, Dr. Janice DeWhite, Dr. Kevin Burton, soon to be Dr. Pilara Zapita, Pax Fordham, Nia Langley, Ron Ruthruff, Olive Hemmings, Dr. Jamie Colasar, Jeanette Sinico from the League of Women Voters, Dr. Timothy Golden, Pastor Sean Fordham, Pastor Amanda Holly, Miss Jody Dodd, Pastor Dr. Paul Hoard, Dr. Valerie Lee, Dr. Robert Shank, Erica Atwood, Dr. Jason O'Rourke, Aaliyah Langley, Dr. Heidi Olson Campbell, the Honorable Chris Johnson, Dr. Nicholas Miller, Andrea Stewartson is going to be there, Reverend Dr. Donna Jones, Bishop Frank Madison Reed III will be in the house from the African Methodist Episcopal Church, and he was one of their leaders of their social justice ministry, a phenomenal speaker who will be breaking the word of life on Friday. If you have not heard Bishop Reed, I would encourage you to Google him and see for yourself about this anointed man of God that will be with us Friday evening. Dr. Audra Savage, Bettina Krause will be there, Don Chavoy, Orlin Johnson, our very own NAD Parle director, Erica Keith, Dr. Douglas Morgan, and of course, the Godfather himself, the legendary pastor, Nick Talafero. So really, really happy to be there. Do we believe in the three angels message? Of course we believe in the three angels message. It's always been about the gospel. So if you're asking questions, why don't you come and join and see for yourself about what the Conscience and Justice Council Convention is all about, where we believe in the gospel of Jesus Christ, we believe in its redemptive value, and we're inclusive, not exclusive, when it comes to the gospel of Jesus Christ. So once again, thank you so much for joining us tonight. We want to encourage you to not forget to vote and go to Our Votes Matter. Once again, cjcouncil.org. Thanks again to our partners, Carmela Monk, the editor of Message Magazine, Pastor Roger Bernard, Office of Regional Conference Ministries, Breath of Life, Pastor Deblier Snell, and Dr. Jesse Wilson Jr., who is with the Bradford Cleveland Brooks Leadership Center and the Pastors and Evangelism Leadership Council as the executive director at Oakwood University. And last but not least, let me thank Carmela once again for being with us this evening. Thank you for your investment of time, your journalistic integrity, your smile that lights up the room, and how you engage all of us through your approach in talking. It's greatly appreciated, and how you bring us all to a conversation.
Oh, thank you for allowing me to be here. Did you say Dr. Gina Brown from Oakwood? I don't remember if you said it or not, but she Oakwood University, one of their sponsors too.
Right, through the Bradford
Yeah.
Cleveland Brook. So it's right through there.
Okay. Thank you very much. Look forward to seeing
Thank you so much.
Good
The
conversation.
Lord bless you and keep you, make his face shine upon you, and give you peace. Good night, everyone.